Welcome to another episode of The Shop. Now, if you've been following along in our series on our LX470 over here, you'll know that we're busy preparing this rig to go overlanding. One of the issues with overlanding, of course, is dust. If you have been driving in a convoy on a dirt road, you'll know that the vehicles up ahead are constantly kicking up dust and you are sucking dust into the engine as you drive along. Now, in Africa, the Land Cruiser, which is the cousin or sister to this LX470 over here, has a whopping big air cleaner that's specifically designed to take on the extra dust load. But the North American spec LX470 here just has a paper element filter, which I don't feel quite comfortable can handle the dust load that driving in convoy is going to introduce. So what I've decided to do to address this issue is to install a snorkel. Now, snorkels are traditionally used for water crossing, where you want your air intake really up high so that water doesn't get in there. You could effectively drive with the hood underwater and have no issues because you're sucking fresh air into your engine through the snorkel. That's one use for it and definitely will be an added advantage, but my primary reason for installing the snorkel is actually to reduce the amount of dust that's going into the engine. Ultimately, I'm going to be installing a cyclonic pre-cleaner on here. There are a couple of companies that make them, and that will allow us to pre-clean the air before we feed it into our element. So join me today as we go ahead and install this snorkel. So the first thing that we have to do is get in here in the wheel arch and remove this plastic liner over here. Now to do that, we've got to remove all of these clips over here, as well as these bolts over here. Now, to undo these clips, it's a little bit tricky. I'm going to show you the way that I've found to do it that works best for me. So the way to remove these that I found works best for me is to take two screwdrivers and slide one each side over there, and then the little stud pops out, and once it pops out you can just pull this clip out. So it's actually a pretty quick, once you do it that way, you can see the stud just pops out and you remove the whole thing. It means that we can actually go again and reuse these when we do the reinstall. Right, so we're going to just remove the rest of them and then come and use our Torx bit to undo those three screws to remove this wheel arch. Right, with the fender liner removed, you can actually see the air intake over here. So my concern is that as this tire is rotating, if you're on a dirt road, you're kicking up dust. Any dust from the vehicle in front of you is coming through here and being sucked straight into your engine. So my plan is to go ahead and put the snorkel on, and that is going to bring the air and it's going to pipe it this way through our fender over here and then up to the top over there. So this all needs to be replaced, and I'll need to make a adaptation here to make sure we can get the air connected over there. At the same time, in order to install the snorkel on the back end over here, I need to remove this power antenna and replace it with a non-powered antenna. So I do have those parts as well. I'm actually going to start off by removing this antenna. Right, so what we've done is we've removed the antenna, and we're going to try and extend the antenna now and see if we can pull it out, and then we have to remove the unit over here from this tube, and we haven't quite figured out how to do that yet, so we're still playing around. But the first job is to get this antenna extended before we can see how to remove it over there. So what we did is we extended the antenna and then just gave it a good tug, and it came out of the top over there, and at the bottom we can now pull this out, and this is loose. Now I'm going to do something that is probably sacrilege, but I'm not going to be using this anymore, so I'm just going to grab a side cutters over here, cut that off, and I can now remove the actual winding mechanism and then go and pull that back out there, which leaves me with just this little stub over here, and this we're going to be installing back into the body over here and then putting an adapter into that. Right, so we've pushed the tube back up inside over here. What I'm going to do next is grab this kit which I bought, which is supposed to be a powered antenna delete kit, which requires that this be popped in there, and then we're going to put this nut back on the top and screw it down. And once that's done, we then have a short flexible antenna that we're going to reinstall. Now I'm not going to crank this all the way down just yet, because I first want to do the installation of the snorkel and make sure that we don't have any interference. But then I'll just grab this little stubby over here and screw it on over there. So this will just remain a little stubby antenna. I don't need anything more than that. And for now, I think this is going to be a great solution. Let's remove the winder mechanism down at the bottom so we can fit our snorkel in. Alright, so we've removed the antenna again because we need to install the template over here to see where to drill the holes. Now this template over here comes with the snorkel, and you need to align it with the wheel arch over there, the hood over there, and then the door over here. Now before I do the final alignment for this template, what I'm going to do is position it as close as possible to where I think it's going to go, and then just make small marks at each of the holes there, and then put some painter's tape over these areas where I'm going to be working, just to protect the paintwork. So let me go ahead, put that on, and then I'll check back with you once I've got this template in its final location. Alright, so we've got the template taped into place over here, but you might be able to see that this template is very, very loose. It doesn't align very well at the top, doesn't align very well here, doesn't align at the wheel arch at all. And on the export models, you have this indicator over here to make sure you got your position, but on ours we don't. So I'm a little bit concerned that we haven't got exactly the right position. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just try and place the snorkel here as best I can to see if the position is correct. If I think it's okay, I'm actually going to go ahead and drill this two big holes over here and then fit the snorkel before I drill the exact mounting holes into the fender. That gives me the ability to adjust a little bit if I do need to make any adjustments. No, it doesn't need to be a 4mm diff. Right, so I've punched out those two holes. I'm now going to take a small drill bit, drill a pilot hole, and then we'll bring the hole saw to do the final drill. Feels very weird to be drilling into the bodywork of the car, but we'll keep going. Alright, we've got our 95mm or 3 3/4 hole saw. So this is the part I'm probably most afraid of. We've got to go ahead now and drill out these two holes. I'll stop before it goes through, alright? Horrible drill. Well, I really don't enjoy using a hole saw, but I have managed to get the two outer circles cut. So what I'm going to do now is I've marked the center holes according to this template. I'm going to remove the template. I'm just going to mark the straight line across there and then just take a cutter and just cut these two pieces out as per the instructions on the manual. Alright, so we've drilled out the hole, we've cut the piece out that we needed to cut and then deburred. So I'm going to go ahead now and do our first test install of the snorkel. So what I'm looking at is how it's actually laying against the body over here to see if there's any adjustments that we need to make. And it does feel to me that we will find a better place for it to lie than where it is at the moment. So I'm just going to fiddle around with this for a little bit till I find a comfortable spot for it. Alright, so if you are looking at using this template, see over here, we've been able to find where this hole is pressing up on the bodywork over there. It's making a mark. So I know where this hole is, but as you can see here, my template does not even hit my holes. Look, that one is off by about 1/8, and this one is off a lot, like by about 10 mils. You can see over there is the tip of the hole, but it's not there. So if you are going to use this template, I really do suggest that you actually start out by making sure that the template aligns with the part, because right there we've already got a fairly major problem. In addition, you'll see that this hole position is incorrect for this inlet over here. Look how big it is at the back, and it's making contact at the top over there, which is exactly what we've seen on the Lexus, and I'm going to now have to just by hand make this fit. Right, with the template being so bad, there is no way that I'm willing to drill the holes over here, because we already know they're not going to align properly. So what I've done is I've put a little bit of Prussian blue, which is a blue marking compound, onto these studs. I'm going to fit this in, and then we'll just bump the body gently from behind until the Prussian blue impregnates on the tape over here. Once we do that, we'll know the exact position of each of the studs, and then I can drill the holes fairly accurately. Alright, my first idea with Prussian blue on the stud locations didn't work. So what I've done is I've just cut short sections of thread and threaded them in, and I'm going to try again and see if this gives us a good mark. And there we go. If we take a look over here, you'll see the center of that one is clearly defined, as well as those two. So I'm going to go ahead now and punch out these locations, and then I'm going to drill the 16mm hole that's recommended in the instructions. Right, after we marked out those holes and drilled them, you can see that the holes are actually very, very far away from where the template said that they were going to be. That template is not accurate at all, and I highly recommend that if you're doing this job, you either mark the holes yourself or have your own template made. But drilling to the template would have mean a whole bunch of holes in this body that were not used. So please don't make that mistake. So we've test fitted the snorkel now. We know these holes are all good and we can fit all the studs. At the same time, we actually measured where this support bracket has to go. And what we're going to do next is punch and then drill these 3 holes so that we can attach the support bracket over here on the A-pillar. Alright, the instructions required that in order to support the snorkel, you drill these 3 holes at 7.5mm, which we did. You then insert a little plastic insert with a self-tapping screw in the insert, and that binds into the hole and then supports the snorkel. Unfortunately, when we tried to torque these up, the little insert started spinning inside of the holes. So what I'm going to do is drill these holes out slightly and actually install a riv-nut into each one of these so that we can torque these bolts down. have a seal underneath them. Right, you might have remembered when I was removing the wheel ouch from the Lexus, there was no air resonator box inside of there. Now the instructions say you're supposed to reuse the air resonator box and glue it in. I don't particularly like using that air resonator, so I was going to throw it out in any case, and of course because I don't have it, I've had to come up with a different plan. So I made a quick trip to the hardware store, and what I have found is this 4-inch to 3-inch wastewater reducer, a piece of 3-inch pipe, I've cut it to 435 millimeters, a 3-inch by 3-inch flexible coupling, and then this coupling that came with the Snorkel kit. So the Snorkel actually fits flush inside of that. This is going to fit inside of this flexible over here, and I'm going to put all of these components in. Now, ideally I'd like to use aluminum or stainless steel, but just given the time and constraints that I have, I'm going to have to make use of this for now. So happy with this, I'm going to go ahead and install it. Right, so over here you'll see our Snorkel coming through the body over there, our 3-inch by 3-inch with the adapter on this side, and then our PVC pipe on this side. The back there you will see our little stub of our antenna that we have now converted and removed the adjustable section. Looking at the space that we have here, I actually think we would have been able to have retained the body in that location over there. So if you are doing this and you're not keen on getting rid of your antenna, hold on to it for a moment, you might be able to still use it. On the other side over here, you will see this 4-inch to 3-inch reducer with our PVC pipe coming over there and a little bit of sealer that we've put in there. So this is sealed up nicely to our airbox. Alright, so over here you will see this 4-inch fitting coming through. Now it looks like it has a really big gap inside of there, but before we installed it, I made sure to check that the seal, the area which is way up over here, is okay, and so I still think we have seal. What we will do is we'll use a little bit of starting fluid a little bit later once this is all dried, just to make sure that this has sealed over here. Right, one thing which I didn't want to just leave was the connector for the power antenna. Now we could have just left this connector dangling, but you do have positive and negative on this connector, and so I thought it would probably be better to seal these pins. So what I did is I cut the old connector off the power antenna and then have just insulated each of the wires inside of there and plugged that back in. This is a sealed connector, and so I know I won't be getting moisture inside of there, and that will protect these pins for ever after.
Well, that template ended up being more of a suggestion than a guide. But honestly, I like our solution better. The factory airbox is gone, the pipe is custom, and the LX can finally breathe clean air. If you enjoyed watching us figure this one out, there's plenty more wrenching on this rig. If you want to keep up with the rest of the Overland build, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so that you don't miss the next step. Thanks for watching.